Krishna, that we are reading from Venu Gita by His Holiness Shivaram Swami, chapter 11. I think it is. Yeah, chapter 11, Krishna's friend, the cloud. And the verse here that we're basing this on is Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-16. That goes like this. Dristva tape vrajapashun saharama gopai sancharayantam anuvenum udirayantam prema pravridha udita kusamavalibi sankyur vyadatsvavapashum Sakyur vyadatsvavapasham buddha atapatram. In the company of Balaram and the cowherd boys, Lord Krishna is continually vibrating his flute as he herds all the animals of Vraj, even under the full heat of the summer sun. Seeing this, the cloud in the sky has expanded himself out of love. He is rising high and constructing out of his own body, with its multitude of flower-like droplets of water, an umbrella for the sake of his friend. So, now we are about halfway through this chapter. We'll finish this chapter today. And we're picking up here where it's speaking about actually Krishna. Yeah, Krishna is, I don't know, observing the clouds above Krishna, I'll start from here. Observing the clouds above Krishna, a group of gopis says, certainly the Kalindi, Manasi Ganga, and other rivers that flow to the sea are fortunate, having witnessed the wonderful pastimes of Sri Krishna. Megasya pi bhagyam ki karnam. What is the acquired good fortune of the clouds, which are achetana prayasya, generally not conscious entities, and little more than vapor in the sky? Sri Sanatan Goswami accentuates two phrases pertaining to Sri Krishna. They are Gopai Sancharayantana and Anuvenum Udirayantam, and they can be understood in two ways. With the word Yadvat, Sanatan Goswami always offers alternative readings, revealing the diverse views of different elevated devotees. In the first meaning of Anuvena, Sri Krishna very loudly calls all the cows and cowherd boys again and again, Varam Varam. Why does he do like that? Again and again, Krishna calls them to meet so that he may give them great pleasure. The Vrajagopis see Krishna playing his flute in a very charming way. By such playing, he herds the cows and buffaloes with the other cowherd boys, making them go from one place to another according to his blissful desire. There are so many cows and so many gopas in so many places, it is anantam. First, they are by the side of the river. Then they come to a beautiful meadow full of green grass. And finally, they pasture under the shade of great trees. When he desires that they all come to him, Krishna stands in one place, and by the sound of his flute, the cows and gopas come running. Then there is a happy reunion. That flute music, which was once heard by the Creator after 10,000 years of austerity, and which after a short time was again silent, is heard again and again, day after day, by the fortunate inhabitants of Vrindavan. This is the wonder of Krishna's Leela. The second option for this phrase is to take the word Anu as following. Thus, after he plays his flute, the clouds protect Sri Krishna and his associates from the heat and shower them with flower-like drops of water. Out of Sakya Bhava, a sense of friendship, the clouds have made a very special umbrella out of their bodies. What is this specialty of the clouds? It is the wealth of flowers stored in their bodies, appearing like a shower of very fine droplets of water. That is their vishishtam, special quality. The gopis say, in this way the distress caused Sri Krishna by the excessive heat of the sun is completely removed, and the clouds receive the great fortune of pleasing him in that way. They are parama danyakam, but the great ocean of our misfortune has no shore, for we have neither the treasure of seeing Krishna nor the opportunity to render him any service. This is our anguish. We saw that in the last chapter too, that the gopis were thinking that everybody except them was fortunate. Everyone except them was able to serve Krishna and see Krishna. and experience Krishna's reciprocation, and only they were deprived of all this mercy. Completing the teachings of Sanatana Goswami, Sri Govinda closed his eyes and savored the mood of the gopis through the words of that great Acharya. Enlivened by remembrance of his predecessors, he sat erect, his head held high, and radiated a peaceful smile. Sri Rupa is known as the Rasa Acharya. He has been specifically empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to describe the science of devotional service. Similarly, Jiva Goswami is the Siddhanta Acharya and has given the final conclusion on all aspects of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy in his Sandarbhas. In his two commentaries, Lagu Vaishnava Toshani and Krama Sandarbha, he reveals the minds of the gopis in the following way. A group of Madhya gopis have assembled in a clearing between the forest and their village. Their hands held to their hearts, their faces in the direction of the sky. Tears suddenly spring to their eyes as they say, Asmakam Hridayam Asma Saram. Our hearts are just like stone. Even though we can see that Sri Krishna is suffering under the influence of the scorching heat of summer, our hearts do not melt to see his condition, and our bodies render no favorable service. Trying to comprehend the good fortune of the clouds, they say, Megai Saha Tasya Kaha Sneha Anubandha. What could possibly be the loving relationship between a cloud and Sri Krishna? After thinking in this way, they replied, Perhaps there is none. Still, the clouds are able to perform some appropriate service, which is obviously very much to Sri Krishna's liking. Then, seeing their own plight at a distance from their beloved, they say, But we cannot do any of these things, and although we are conscious living beings and relatives of Hari, our fortune remains as insignificant as a mustard seed. Raghunath Das felt great happiness to be blessed by such wonderful Hari Katha. His eyes sparkling with appreciation, his body trembling with ecstasy, and his pure mind fully absorbed in the transcendental narration, he was as much the very image of the sincere disciple as Sri Govinda was the embodiment of the qualified guru. Continuing, Sri Govinda said, The gopis say, From high above, the clouds see Sri Krishna inconvenienced by the summer heat. Thinking to do seva for their beloved by taking the form of an umbrella, they follow Sri Krishna wherever he goes with the cows. Gochara yatra yatra tatra tatra uparitram. Even though the wind blows in one direction, the clouds disobey him and go hither and thither with Sri Krishna, taking care to always protect him from the glare of the sun. If someone asks, how is it that the clouds move at will and change their shape and size, the gopis reply, the cloud has prema, and it is the influence of this prema that causes such physical transformations as an increase in size and the shedding of ecstatic tears. Someone else may inquire why it is that the cloud is considered a friend of Shama Sundar. Again, the gopis reply, just as Sri Krishna is black, similarly, the clouds are Shamatvat. They have a polished black color, and therefore they are of the same varna or category as he. As Sri Krishna plays his flute like thundering clouds, the clouds slowly thunder, mandam, mandam, overjoyed at his flute playing. In this way, sharing common characteristics, Sri Krishna and the clouds have developed a deep sense of loving friendship. Are there other evidences of this kinship between Sri Krishna and the clouds? Certainly, reply the gopis. Clouds are not only kind to Hari, but they give protection to all those related to him, like Baladev and his boyfriends. Because his associates are dearer to him than millions of his own lives, by serving them, the clouds become the object of his unlimited affections. But that is not all. The gopis continue. The friendship of the clouds is shown by how they worship Krishna with showers of fine water droplets, which are like minute crystalline flowers. The opinion of the gopis is that the clouds are urdvam gata, quite high in the sky. Govinda Vidyaratna opened his eyes wide and exclaimed, Why should that be the case, you ask? Raising his right hand, he continued, The gopis argue that if clouds sailed near Krishna, the demigods flying in their vimanas would not see what was happening below. Vimana charinam devanam darshinam vanam. Remember the earlier verse starting with Krishnam Nirikshya Vanitotsava Rupa Shila. Something. With that, Sri Govinda burst into laughter, clapping his hands together in great happiness. His sudden outburst frightened two deer standing nearby, causing the peacocks to cry out, "Kekar!" Made a pair of parrots overhead flap their wings and induced the nearby flowers to blossom. Raghunath Das, oh, his laughter made the flowers blossom. Raghunath Das, also caught up in that wave of Hasya Bhav, laughed to his heart's content. Just then a thunderclap was heard nearby, as if the clouds themselves were sharing the fun, albeit at their own expense. With that, Sri Krishna began to laugh Sri Govinda, the Guru, began to laugh once again, accompanied by the animals, birds, trees, and creepers. When the mood of laughter subsided, Sri Govinda, who seemed to manifest a mischievous mood, spoke as he chuckled. How humorous is our Sri Jiva Goswami. Earlier, he chided the Devis. As women are not very expert in driving vehicles, he deduced that the Devis required their husbands to drive their vimanas, as they were not clever enough to do so. He. He's joking about this. Because what they're laughing about is here that the gopis argue that if the clouds sailed in the sky too high, then the opinion of the gopis is that the clouds are quite high in the sky. So Govinda exclaims, why should that be the case? And then he says that the gopis argue that if the clouds sailed near Krishna, the demigods flying in their celestial airplanes, their vimanas, would not see what was happening below. So then he found that very funny, that the clouds would block the view of the demigods. And then he's thinking, what's funny is that the women are not very expert in driving the celestial airplanes, so that then their husbands have to drive. Okay, now he's going to continue. Once again, he began to laugh, this time even more uncontrollably than before, until tears flowed down his face onto his rotund belly. Finally composing themselves, those illustrious Vaishnavas, beaming with happy smiles, continued to discourse about the glories of the flute of Sri Krishna. I think what he's saying here, the reason that it's funny is because if the clouds block the view of the demigods, then basically they're going to have a hard time driving because they're going to be struggling to see, and the demigods want to see. They can't ask their wives or consorts to drive because the Devis are not good drivers. Seems they have a female driver joke in the celestial heavenly planets too. Okay. Jiva Goswami continues, explaining that the word anu is used in the sense of sameness, sadrisha arta, because there is a similarity as well as bonds of affection between the cloud and Sri Hari. By transforming itself into an umbrella, the cloud expresses love for his friend. Once again, Prabhu Vidyaratna leaned forward towards Raghunath Das and spoke in a calm but emphatic voice. Now I will explain the commentary written by our beloved Gurudev, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad, who is glorified throughout the three worlds for his extraordinary exposition of the pastimes of Radha Madhava. Speaking through the mouth of our Acharya, the gopis expressed their feelings to each other. Pointing to the clouds, one gopi says, Hanta, Hanta, just see here. Those who have a sense of friendship, Sakyabhav, have achieved success in fulfilling their desires. Another gopi, uncertain of what is being discussed, says, Of whom are you speaking, dear friend? Her Sakhi replies, O bewildered one, just see the clouds expanding out of love, prema pravridha. Seeing Sri Krishna's discomfort from the scorching rays of the summer sun, they change their size to give him all protection. Another girl, able to see the far-off clouds, adds, not only do the clouds act as umbrellas, but they do rasa vrishti. They sprinkle a fine spray of rain, which is like a megapushpa ganarasa, a shower of small flowers. The first speaker, dressed in a golden sari, replies, "Do not think that shower of water is ordinary. It is like fruit juice, or the nectar drunk by the denizens of heaven, and is imbued with special powers to quench the scorching heat." Exhibiting envy at the good fortune of the clouds, another gopi, her bluish eyes decorated by kajal, says, "What makes the clouds think they have the right to act with such intimacy? Being vapor-laden with rain, how do they claim friendship with our love-saturated Govinda? What is their Sakya Bhava Abhiman?" Her friend replies, "Saki, it is natural that people who exhibit similar qualities and similar features will be of an amiable disposition towards each other." Replying again, the first girl says, "Pray tell, what similarity can there be between a cloud and Sri Krishna?" Holding her friend's hand to compose her, that most intelligent among ladies says, "The cloud considers himself Sri Krishna's friend for the following reasons. As the cloud is black, so is Sri Krishna. As Sri Krishna wears yellow cloth, so the cloud is decorated with streaks of golden lightning. And as the clouds are always above the earth's surface, so Sri Krishna is always aloof from contact with the material elements. Furthermore, the sound of Sri Krishna's flute playing resembles the rumbling of the clouds. Do you not think the clouds are warranted in their relationship with our dear friend?" Looking towards the ground and marking the earth with her feet, her friend replies, "Yes, why not? The clouds assume the form of an umbrella and give happiness to Sri Krishna. Therefore, all glories to them." Becoming more morose, she says, "It is only we who do not get a chance to please him." There is a prolonged silence as the mood of separation of the gopis caresses Sri Govinda's heart. The rain continues to fall, collecting in small puddles on the ground. Slowly he continues, "What you have asked for, I have replied, my dear son. Is there anything further you would like to hear today?" Raghunath Das folded his hands and inquired, "Beloved Gurudev, are there other commentaries on this verse that I should hear?" Clearing his throat, Prabhu Vidyaratna replied, "I have mentioned that there are other commentaries written by scholars which are not worthy of mention. The expositions of the pure Vaishnavas in the Guru Parampara, devoid of any tinge of karma and gyan, are too numerous for me to recount at this time. But among such pure glorification of the Lord, one will be composed in the future, which stands out unique amongst them." His curiosity aroused by the mention of a peerless commentary and the indication that it is yet to be penned, Raghunath Das asked, "Who is the author of this superlative bhasya, and when will he appear? What qualities does his composition contain that it gains such distinction among the circle of Vaishnava poets, the treasured ornaments of Goddess Saraswati's Veena?" Looking in either direction, Sri Govinda says, "Due to the confidential nature of this topic, I can only give you a hint of what is to come. What I have understood myself and have confirmed from Gurudev cannot be spoken now, but I shall recount to you as much as you can understand." Sensing a mysterious revelation in the making, Raghunath Das came a little closer to the lotus feet of his guru. To hear better, the birds perched in the tree moved to the bottom branch. The deer standing at a distance ventured closer. The peacock settled in the dust by the Vaishnava's feet, and the leaves of the tree seemed to arch downward. Speaking in a low voice that was almost a whisper, Govinda Vidyaratna, the intimate disciple of Sri Chakravartipad, the infallible servant of Radha Madhava, who was above the fourfold defects and aloof from the material modes, said, "When Baladev Vidyabhushan answered the challenge of the Galta Smartas by composing his Govinda Bhasya commentary, I was present to render some menial service under the order of Gurudev. One night, before returning to Braj, by the mercy of Govindaji, who was pleased with my service to the servant of his servants, I had a wonderful dream." I have a feeling who he's going to say. I think he's going to say Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. Okay, let's see. As the rain continued to fall, it made pattering noises as it hit the ground. Because the clouds could not hear what was being said, they immediately stopped their showers and ceased their rolling. In that dream, I saw one Vaishnava, brilliant as the sun, resplendent with unlimited qualities and learned like Vyasadeva. By the order of the Lord, he entered this world, and although he exhibited a humble and simple demeanor, Lord Gauranga, Nitai, and the entire Parampara empowered him with unprecedented potency. The demigod showered flowers, although his identity was beyond their comprehension, and his powers surpassed their own. The many things I saw cannot be told. Still, I will relate how he travels in metal vimanas from one country to the other, and while touring the world, he preaches the glories of the holy name to Malechas, Yavanas, and Brahmabandhus. While traveling, he also writes numerous books and gives his commentaries in the language of the Westerners, while simultaneously inaugurating 108 temples and installing the Arch of Vigraha in lands beyond the ocean. Raghunath, my son, listen to this wonder. To purify his followers who are accustomed to a life of sin, he will bestow on them Brahma Diksha and Sannyas Diksha, having brought them to the standard of pure Aryans. When he writes his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, it will be translated in every language of the world, distributed by the crores, and dedicated to our own Baladev in appreciation of his Govinda Bhasya. Then he will write his commentary on the Bhagavatam and compose a special treatise, a summary study on the 10th canto known as the Krishna book. In an extraordinary way, that Krishna book will reveal the pastimes of Sri Krishna, resembling a mystical cloak worn by those aspirants who desire to hear the Leela of the Supreme, but possess little qualification to do so. When worn with faith and devotion, this magical shawl protects its bearer from the monsoon-like downpour, which is the pernicious influence of Kali. Speaking into a machine that records his voice, he will weave the words of Shukadev into a divine composition, resembling a magical yarn stretched across a loom of paper. Next, that great Prabhu will embroider this divine mantle with unsurpassable patterns, selections from the commentaries of the Acharyas, most notably our own Chakravartipad. Finally, he will weave a matrix of golden fleece throughout the entire wrapper with the words of his own explanations, and make it sparkle with teachings from the Gita and glitter with quotes from the Upanishads. Surely those who cover their ears with this divine cloak of wisdom will never again be attracted to the phantasmagoria of mundane topics, which leads to the bottomless well of fruitive activities. Just hear how our Prabhu will comment on the verse I have quoted. These are his own words. So this is quoting from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. And this verse from 10th canto. The scorching heat of the autumn sunshine was sometimes intolerable, and therefore the clouds in the sky appeared in sympathy above Krishna and Balaram and their boyfriends while they engaged in blowing their flutes. The clouds served as a soothing umbrella over their heads just to make friendship with Krishna. Note here how this great soul explains that the clouds' desire to make friendship with Krishna is the purpose of their seva. Like sadhakas, the clouds wish to develop their relationship as friends of Hari and offer themselves as umbrellas for the sake of his service. According to the vision of our Prabhu, an extraordinary concert takes place at this time, as all the cowherd boys are engaged in playing their flutes. Although Vanamali is the most experienced of flutists, his sakhas also possess flutes, and they now accompany their beloved friend to create a wonderful atmosphere, sounding many hundreds and thousands of such instruments. Just hear that divine concert. With that exclamation of happiness, Sri Govinda paused briefly, his eyes glittering with so many diamonds of ecstasy. My dear Raghunath, this much I have told you about the master of those who recognize devotion as the essence of Vedanta. More I cannot say. Although I awoke elated, feeling great joy, in my mind I had a doubt whether this dream was the revelation of the Lord or a product of my own mind. After returning to Vrindavan and relating all the adventures at Galta to the Vaishnavas, I spoke in confidence to Sri Vishwanath and revealed the contents of my dream to him. That great devotee who is omniscient and infallible took my hand and told me, Sri Govinda, you are very fortunate to have had darshan of this Prabhu. What you saw in your dream was all true. It was the blessing of Lord Gauranga for your service in defending the honor of our parampara. As you have seen it, this devotee will certainly come to fulfill the desire of our Guru Parampara. After great labor, Vedavyas composed all the Vedas, Upanishads, and Puranas. However, he knew that in the age of Kali, people will lack the patience and wisdom to read his books, and because they speak in the tongue of Malachas, they will be indifferent to Sanskrit compositions. His great aspiration was to simplify his works and make their essence available to the world in words they could comprehend. Being sympathetic to his all-compassionate desire, Gaura Krishna sent his most intimate servant, who, while worshipable by you and me, sees himself as our humble servant. Now return to your cottage and be happy, for the fruit of our hard work will be manifest through him whom you saw in your dreams. The mission of Lord Gauranga is assured. With that, Sri Govinda stood up and embraced Raghunath to his chest, weeping tears of ecstasy. His voice choked, his body trembled, and his hair stood on end like a coat of mail. Unable to speak further, he folded his hands in farewell, and in the twilight glow made his way to his hut, closing the door behind him. Raghunath Das stood there, the occasional drop of water falling from the tips of the leaves into the puddles below. Above his head, a beautiful parrot, glowing with divine knowledge, as brilliant as the second sun, repeated what he had heard from the conversation. My dear Raghunath, this much I have told you about the master of those who recognize devotion as the essence of Vedanta. More I cannot say. Raghunath Das was astonished at what he had heard concerning the future activities of this great Vaishnava. Knowing that Sri Govinda would speak no further on the topic, carefully locked this revelation in his heart as a consummation of his many years of austerity and study. Staggering under the influence of spiritual ecstasy, he offered obeisances to his gurus, and in the failing light slowly made his way back to his own ashram. Once again, in a voice like honey, the parrot behind him spoke. My dear Raghunath, this much I have told you about the master of those who recognize devotion as the essence of Vedanta. More I cannot say. Then it flew away. Now we have the conclusion of this, the sort of summative conclusion of this chapter. This concludes the 11th chapter of the Song of the Flute by a very insignificant disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, about a dear friend of Sri Krishna, the cloud, who by possessing the same color as he, makes a thundering sound like his flute, and being decorated with lightning akin to his golden cloth, although generally unconscious, became animated by his flute's prema, and desiring Sri Krishna's service, rose high in the sky without obstructing the vision of the Devis, and expanding himself into a divine umbrella above Gopal, gave relief from the glare of the midday sun, and then, following the charitable example of the peacocks, offered a fine drizzle of flowers, in reality a shower of nectarian juice, thus removing Sri Krishna's distress and that of the entire world, with the exception of a group of Madhya Gopis, who watched from a distance the artistic movements of Sri Hari and lamented their inability to soothe his suffering or render seva like the cloud. But through their tears, continued to watch Sri Krishna playing his flute, assembling his friends, gathering his cows, and inaugurating a concert of countless flutes in a joyous reunion under the shelter of that wonderful umbrella, the cloud. That ends chapter 11. That was amazing how he put that, he worked in the description of Srila Prabhupada's accomplishments and his presentation of this, the glories of Krishna's friend, the cloud, from the Krishna book. That was really sweet. Jai, His Holiness Shri Ram Swami ki jai, Venu Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The clouds of Vrindavan who want to be friends with Krishna and do wonderful service for him on hot summer days ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.